South Africa has joined the global community in celebrating World Radio Day. The day is celebrated under the theme Radio, a Century, Informing, Entertaining and Educating. This year's theme underscores the rich history and diverse contribution of radio to our society. For over a century, radio has played a pivotal role in informing, entertaining and educating societies. It has been a critical tool for communication, connecting people across vast distances and diverse cultures. Radio has been hailed at its ability to transcend barriers of language and geography and making it a powerful instrument for promoting inclusivity and fostering unity among the country's diverse communities. In South Africa, radio has historically been a cornerstone of democracy, serving as a platform for dialogue, debate, and the exchange of ideas. It has played a crucial role in promoting social cohesion, advancing human rights, and amplifying the voices of marginalized groups. For more on this, we're now joined by founder of TUT FM, former Radio BOP, Kaya FM and Capricorn FM radio host Hector Mathabe, and he joins us via our video link for more on International Radio Day. Hector, thank you so much for joining us this evening. And I must say and point out that I see that you are the founder of TUT FM, and it is one of the platforms that actually gave me my first experience of radio. So thank you so much for you founding that radio station. It actually means so much to me. But moving right along, I'm sure when we talk about World Radio Day, it's a day that has a very special place in your heart.
Oh, yes, it does. Am I audible?
Yes.
Can you hear me, Bali?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, it does. Actually, I'm shocked because, I think you were on this other platform, and I've always been a fan of yours and love the work that you do. Little did I know that you actually started on the platform that I started back in 1994. That's when I started it, and the likes of Ashifa Shaba, Tivo Smokwele, AK Chavalala, Greg Maluka, who was the boss at Kaya FM. Actually, all of them started on that platform. So this day, it definitely has that special place in my heart because I've always loved radio. You know, I grew up in a village called Madidi, and grew up without a television at all until I finished my studies. So radio was the only source of entertainment. But apart from just being a source of entertainment, it was a source of information as per theme of this year's this year's theme, rather. And it served as a way, as something that inspired me to want to do what these people that I was hearing inside this little thing were doing. That how did they get in there? How did they get in there? One day I want to find myself in there. And little did I know that in the future, as I joined TNT in 91, that in the very next year, 1992, I would be the founder of the first black campus radio station in South Africa.
And perhaps maybe just take a step back and just tell us, what does your relationship with radio look like? I know that many of us have, our certain experiences of how we actually came about in terms of getting into and behind the radio mic. And, from you, basically saying that it started from back home. But what does your relationship with radio actually look like?
Okay, here's a young man growing up in that village of Madidi. It's somewhere in the Northwest Province in the Madidi municipality. Preparing the brazier and the cooking and helping my parents. And then I would always hear these voices, was Lopiri, the voices on Radio CPD at that time. But my sister, Eunice, loved radio so much. She would also, she's the one who actually introduced me to Radio BOP. And Radio BOP was quite interesting. I think some of the earliest voices I heard there was Mudisa Nwidise and Lawrence Dube. So when I wanted to choose a career, I remember a friend of mine, Paul, we were sitting there and he told me that when I love English so much and you love music, maybe you should consider being on radio. For me, it was just a source of entertainment. As I said earlier, I didn't have television. We didn't have TV at home. So listening to stories on television, listening to the news. That's the only way we could be informed and be entertained and educated. So when my friend told me that I should consider radio, it became easier for me because it's something I was consuming all the time as a youngster until I finished my matric at that time. So then I remember when I was doing matric, after he told me that, I saw Bob Mabena in some magazine. And when I saw that gentleman, and then I was told that he was on Radio BOP, I started listening to Radio BOP earnestly at that time. And I couldn't believe that those were black people speaking on radio. I was like, no, this can't be black people. But it was just guys who had refined their English, I think, through education. Bob Mabena, Bendi Gobe, and Josh Manyosi. And that moment when I saw Bob, I knew that this is what I'm going to do when I finish my studies.
And Hector, talking about that and, the many memories many of us have when it comes to our relationship with radio. And, when it comes to the importance of radio, I mean, right now we have access to so much. I mean, there's podcasts, there's vodcasts, there's so many different mediums now, and people can access radio in many and different dimensions. What makes it so important for us to continue to have mediums such as radio in our country?
It's portability. I think it's what makes it easy, accessibility and portability in that it's easy to access while you're driving, as opposed to the medium that you and I are communicating on right now. That yes, I know people watch TV on their phones, but when you are driving and you want to focus on traffic, you can still be able to listen to radio and thus continue being informed, entertained, and educated. So I think the radio will never go away at all. Although, as you were saying, things are changing rapidly. I mean, there's online radio right now, and the technology moving from FM, and hopefully eventually our country will get to DAB, which is digital audio broadcasting. But radio continues to be the medium that can inform you while you are busy doing other things. So it means that it can help you be even more productive. I mean, people are able to listen to radio while they are busy with their tasks at work, and that is why that's the importance that's the importance of radio. And I don't think that there were people who have predicted that radio will die at some point. Well, can bring in podcasts, bring in all these other things, but I believe that radio will always have a role in our lives as society.
And I completely agree with you when you're saying radio will never go away, because as much as it develops with time, but it continues to change. And one would say that even a podcast is still taken from the traditional mediums of radio. And when it comes to your thoughts on terms of the trajectory of radio and how things have changed, what are your thoughts in terms of where the world is going towards radio on demand, when people can listen, you don't need to tune in at a specific time, where even radio stations have online platforms that you can even catch up on a bit later on. What is your thoughts when it comes to that trajectory in terms of people never missing that conversation that took place, even though it was early this morning?
I think that's the best thing that could ever happen to radio, in that there are moments where maybe you are unfortunately unable to listen to a certain program as a worker. You could be, let's say you're on television, that could be your favorite program playing right now. And if the station is good and they're able to capture and package their programs properly, you can always be able to go back and listen to a rebroadcast, or do we call it a podcast? By the way, there's audio and visual podcast, so you can still be able to go back. And I think that has somehow help boost the presence of radio, in that in the past, once you've missed it. But right now, we are able to can go back and catch up with the programs that we would have missed. But the only thing that I'm finding a little bit awkward is us being able to see people on radio. That for me kills the mystery of radio. Because remember, back in the days, I mean, me seated here, if you were to meet me, people always just get so shocked. How, Hector, can't you? So shocked, you know? And now with the radio, back in the day, we could just make up our minds that the guy behind the mic right now must be very handsome. He must be tall. He must be dark. And when you meet the guy, it's like, how? This is the guy. Now, with us now involving cameras, getting into our radio stations and all that, I feel that's killing that thing that made radio. So I still believe that let's have television and Simbali on TV, and let's have radio. Let's separate the two. But I guess, as you were saying, times have changed and things have changed so drastically. Listeners get to be curious to see their favorite radio presenter. But like you're saying, with how radio is where radio is going because of the technological changes, it's very good that we are able to package and these podcasts for later use, and that way no one can miss on their favorite program.
All right, Hector, thank you so much for your time. Indeed, a pleasure really talking to you about World Radio Day. That is Hector Mathabe, founder of TUT FM, former Radio BOP, FM and Capricorn FM radio host, talking to us there about International Radio Day.